The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Federation buzzed with anxious energy. Representatives from 47 different species filled the vast chamber, a kaleidoscope of scales, fur, feathers, and forms that defied easy description. The emergency session had been called without warning, and speculation ran wild through the assembled delegates. At the central podium stood Ambassador Theron of the Valorian Commonwealth. His silver skin, normally luminous with health, appeared dull and ashen. His 6 eyes, usually bright with curiosity, now darted nervously across the crowd. The Valorians were renowned throughout the galaxy as peaceful explorers, always seeking friendship among the stars. But today, Theron looked like someone who had witnessed the impossible. "Esteemed members of the Federation," Theron began, his voice amplified through quantum translation devices, "I come before you with urgent intelligence. Our exploration fleet has made contact with a new species on the rim of civilized space. They call themselves humans, and their homeworld is designated Earth." A ripple of interest passed through the assembly. New species were always cause for excitement. The galaxy was vast, and finding intelligent life remained rare and wonderful. Most delegates leaned forward eagerly. Commander Dravik of the Kravos Dominion rose from his seat. The massive warrior stood nearly 3 meters tall, his crimson exoskeleton gleaming under the chamber's bioluminescent lighting. 4 powerful arms crossed over his armored chest as his compound eyes fixed on Theron with predatory focus. "New species mean new opportunities," Dravik rumbled, his voice like grinding stone. "New resources, new territories, new worlds for the Dominion. This is excellent news." Several other representatives nodded in agreement. The Kravos Dominion controlled 63 star systems and was always expanding. Their military might was legendary. They had never lost a war. But Theron shook his head violently, his silver skin flashing with distress patterns. "No, Commander, you misunderstand. These humans are different. They represent a danger unlike anything we've encountered." Laughter erupted from the Kravos delegation. The very idea seemed absurd. "Danger?" Dravik asked, mandibles clicking with amusement. "Ambassador, with all respect, your people see threats in solar flares. What could one primitive species possibly do to threaten the mighty Kravos Dominion?" Theron's hands trembled as he activated the holographic display. Images of a blue-green world appeared, continents, oceans, clouds swirling in familiar patterns. "Let me tell you what we discovered," Theron said quietly. "Earth is a beautiful world, rich in biodiversity and resources. When our ships first approached, we expected a peaceful civilization in early development stages. The display shifted to show human cities. Towering structures reached skyward, vehicles moved along intricate road networks, and millions of lights created constellations of artificial stars. They've achieved basic space travel, small colonies on their moon and neighboring planets. By all appearances, they seemed like any other developing species. So we initiated first contact using standard peaceful protocols." The assembled representatives watched with standard interest. First contact procedures were well established. The Valorians were experts. They'd successfully introduced dozens of species to galactic civilization. "What happened next," Theron said, voice dropping to barely a whisper, "changed everything we thought we knew about warfare. When we landed on Earth, their leaders welcomed us. They were curious, friendly, eager to learn about the galaxy. We spent months studying their culture, sharing our knowledge. Everything seemed normal." Commander Dravik looked bored. "This all sounds perfectly routine, Ambassador. Where's this supposed danger?" Theron's eyes met the commander's, and something in that gaze made even the mighty Kravos warrior pause. "The danger, Commander, lies in their history. While learning about human culture, we discovered something terrifying. These beings have never known true peace. For their entire recorded history, over 5,000 years, they have been at war. Many species have violent pasts. We all evolved from predators. What makes humans special?" "Because they never stopped," Theron replied. "We evolved peace through diplomacy. Others found it through conquest or mutual exhaustion. But humans? Humans have been fighting each other for 5 millennia without a single decade of complete global peace. The chamber fell silent. Representatives shifted uncomfortably. They have fought with primitive tools, sticks and stones. They fought with metal blades and wooden shields. They fought with chemical explosives and mechanical weapons. They even fought with devices that split atoms and destroyed entire cities in microseconds. The holographic display changed to show images from human history. Ancient battles with thousands of warriors clashing, medieval knights charging across fields, modern soldiers with advanced rifles and trenches, and finally, the mushroom clouds of nuclear detonations. They have weaponized everything, Theron said, voice filled with horrified awe. Their music, their art, their very language can be turned into weapons. They've created poisons that kill millions, diseases that eliminate entire populations, and bombs that can crack planetary crusts. Commander Dravik leaned forward, suddenly more interested. Impressive weapons for primitives, but weapons can be countered. Numbers can overwhelm any defense. You still don't understand, Theron declared desperately. It's not their weapons that make them dangerous, it's their minds. They think about war differently than we do. The ambassador activated another set of images, human military academies where young humans studied warfare. We study war to avoid it. Humans study war to perfect it. They have institutions dedicated entirely to combat science. They analyze every battle they've ever fought, learning from victory and defeat alike. They create strategic texts thousands of years old that remain relevant today. They create simulations of battles that never happened just to explore new tactics. They've turned warfare into mathematics, calculating exactly how to achieve maximum destruction with minimal resources. The chamber was completely silent. Even Commander Dravik had stopped laughing. But perhaps most terrifying, Theron continued, is when they know to stop. Despite having power to destroy their own world many times over, they choose restraint. They're not mindless killers or savage beasts. They're intelligent, calculating warriors who understand the true cost of war better than anyone in the galaxy. Theron looked directly at Commander Dravik. When our cultural exchange concluded, I asked their military leaders what would happen if someone attacked Earth. Do you know what they told me? The commanders said nothing, waiting. They said they wouldn't just defend themselves. They would hunt down every ship, every base, every world belonging to their attackers. They would dismantle their enemy's entire civilization piece by piece until nothing remained but ashes and regret. Theron's voice grew urgent, and then, Commander, they smiled. The warning hung in the air like a physical presence, chilling every being in the Grand Hall. 3 days after Ambassador Theron's warning, the Kravos Dominion convened its war council. The chamber, carved from obsidian deep within their homeworld, glowed with harsh crystalline light. Around a circular table sat the Dominion's most powerful military leaders. Supreme Commander Vrokov dominated the room. The ancient warrior was the largest Kravos anyone had seen, his crimson exoskeleton bearing scars from 100 battles. His compound eyes burned with ambition as he studied holographic star maps.
So, Vrokov rumbled, voice like breaking stone. The Vidorians fear these humans. They speak of danger and destruction. He laughed, a sound like shattering glass. The same Vidorians who surrender at the first sign of conflict, the same weaklings who beg for peace when we take their worlds. Commander Dravik stood at attention. My Supreme Commander, I witnessed Theron's presentation. The ambassador seemed genuinely frightened. Perhaps we should investigate further before taking action. Investigate? Vrokov's eyes narrowed dangerously. Are you suggesting the mighty Kravos Dominion should cower before rumors? Of course not, Supreme Commander, Dravik said quickly. But the Vidorians are excellent scouts. Their intelligence is usually accurate. Their intelligence about military strength is worthless, Admiral Korax interrupted. The naval commander was younger than most present, but his record was flawless. He'd conquered 15 star systems without losing a single major engagement. Look at the facts, Korax continued, activating his holographic display. This human homeworld sits isolated on the rim. They've barely achieved faster-than-light capability. Our intelligence shows small mining operations on asteroids and a tiny research station on their moon. The display showed images from long-range reconnaissance drones. Human spacecraft looked primitive compared to Dominion vessels. Their technology is at least 2 centuries behind ours, Korax explained. They use chemical propulsion for most space travel. Their weapons appear based on projectile systems rather than energy weapons. They don't even have proper shield technology. Supreme Commander Vrakoth leaned forward with interest. What about planetary defenses? Minimal, Korax replied confidently. A few orbital platforms around Earth itself, nothing that could stop a proper invasion fleet. Their military appears focused on ground forces, not space combat. Commander Draxus, leader of ground forces, snorted. Ground forces, how primitive. Do they still fight with blades? Projectile weapons, mostly. Chemical explosives, very basic compared to our plasma cannons. Their soldiers wear simple armor that wouldn't stop our weakest weapons. The War Council continued for hours, analyzing every piece of intelligence. The more they learned, the more confident they became. Humans seemed exactly what they appeared, a young species taking its first steps into the galaxy. What about population? Asked General Thex, the Dominion's strategic planner. Approximately 9 billion on their home world, perhaps 2 million scattered among small colonies. Decent numbers for labor conscription after conquest. And resources. Abundant, Korax said eagerly. Earth is rich in metals, water, organic compounds. The system contains several gas giants, perfect for fuel extraction. The asteroid belt holds enough rare minerals to supply our shipyards for decades. Vrakoth stood slowly, his massive form casting shadows across the chamber. Tell me, Admiral, how long to conquer this human system? Korax didn't hesitate. With proper fleet deployment, Supreme Commander, 2 weeks, perhaps 3 if they hide among asteroids, but they have nowhere to run. No allies, no technology that threatens our ships. Fleet size required? 400 ships should be more than sufficient. Capital ships for orbital bombardment, carriers for fighter support, troop transports for occupation, standard conquest formation. Vrakoth walked to the star map, studying Earth's location. It was indeed isolated, far from major trade routes or allied civilizations. The perfect target. The Vidorians spoke of human history, Dravik said carefully, their wars and weapons. Primitive conflicts between primitive people, Vrakoth dismissed. Every species fights before learning civilization. The strong survive, the weak serve. Natural order. But Supreme Commander, Dravik pressed, Theron seemed to believe their experience makes them dangerous. Vrakoth turned to face his general. Dravik immediately lowered his eyes in submission. Are you questioning my judgment, General? Never, Supreme Commander. I merely suggest caution. Caution is for the weak. The Kravos Dominion was built through strength and decisive action. We've conquered 63 star systems. We've defeated species with technology far superior to these humans. We have never lost a war. The Supreme Commander returned to his throne. Decision made. Admiral Korax, assemble the conquest fleet. Commander Dravik, prepare occupation forces. General Draxus, ready the labor processing centers. Supreme Commander, Admiral Korax said excitedly, shall I inform the Galactic Federation of our intentions? Since when does the Dominion ask permission to expand? Vrakoth laughed harshly. The humans aren't Federation members. They have no treaties, no protections. They're free territory waiting to be claimed. The War Council erupted in approving battle cries. Besides, Vrakoth continued, the Federation is full of weak species like the Vidorians. They'd waste months debating. By the time they decide anything, Earth will already fly our banner. Within hours, orders spread across the Kravos dominion. Shipyards worked overtime, weapons were loaded, troops were briefed, supply chains organized. The machinery of conquest began to turn. Admiral Korax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the massive dreadnought Dominion's Fury. Through the viewport, he surveyed the assembled fleet. 400 ships of various sizes, from nimble fighters to planet-killing battleships. Enough firepower to reduce worlds to ash. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the fleet is ready for departure." "Excellent," Korax replied. "Set course for the Sol system, maximum speed." As the Kravos war fleet engaged their FTL drives and disappeared into hyperspace, none noticed the small Vidorian scout ship monitoring their preparations. Ambassador Theron watched the departure with growing dread. His warnings had failed. His appeals to Vrakov had been ignored. Now the most powerful military force in the galaxy was heading towards a world they didn't understand. Theron tried desperately to send a warning to Earth, but Kravos jamming technology blocked all communications to the Sol system. The humans would face invasion alone, with no warning of what was coming. As his ship jumped to hyperspace, racing to alert the Federation, Theron could only hope his fears were wrong.
Perhaps humans were just another primitive species. Perhaps the Kravos would achieve another easy victory. But deep in his heart, the ambassador knew better. The galaxy was about to learn why humans smiled when they talked about war. The Kravos war fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a cloud of metal death. 400 ships spread across the darkness, hulls gleaming with weapon ports and armor plating. Admiral Korax stood on his flagship's bridge, steadying tactical displays with satisfaction. "Report," he commanded. "Long-range scanners show minimal activity around the third planet," his sensor officer replied. "Several small orbital stations, a few dozen ships moving between inner planets, no major defensive installations detected." "Just as intelligence predicted," Korax said, smiling. "These humans are even more primitive than expected. Signal the fleet. Assume attack formation." The massive Kravos ships began moving into standard conquest pattern. Heavy battleships formed the front line, plasma cannons charging. Carrier vessels released swarms of fighters. Troop transports hung back, waiting for bombardment to clear resistance. "Admiral," the communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from human vessels." "How many ships are they sending to meet us?" Korax asked, expecting desperate evacuation fleets, or perhaps a small militia. 37 ships, sir. They appear to be converted civilian vessels, cargo haulers, mining ships, and what looks like a passenger transport." Korax laughed so hard he nearly fell from his command chair. 37 ships against our 400? He wiped his eyes. "These humans are either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid." The human fleet approached slowly, their ships looking like scrap metal compared to sleek Kravos war vessels. "Sir, they're requesting communication." "Put them through," Korax said, still chuckling. "I want to hear what these primitives say before we destroy them." The main screen flickered. A human in simple military uniform appeared, name tag reading Captain Morrison. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth Defense Force. You've entered our territory without permission with obvious hostile intent. You have exactly 10 minutes to leave our system or we'll be forced to defend ourselves." The Kravos bridge crew erupted in laughter. "Defend yourselves?" Admiral Korax asked, still smiling. "Captain, I have 400 warships. You have 37 cargo vessels. Do you understand mathematics?" The expression on Morrison didn't change. "Admiral, we tried peace once. It didn't work out well for those who broke it. You now have 9 minutes, 30 seconds. "You dare threaten the Kravos Dominion?" Korax's amusement turned to anger. "I'll enjoy watching your primitive world burn." 8 minutes, Morrison replied calmly, and cut the communication. Korax turned to his weapons officer. "Target their flagship. One shot should show them the futility of resistance." Firing main plasma cannon. A brilliant energy beam lanced out,
capable of melting through any known ship's armor. It struck Morrison's vessel directly center mass. The human ship's hull glowed white-hot for a moment. Then something impossible happened. Instead of exploding or melting, the ship absorbed the energy and continued moving forward as if nothing had occurred. What? Korax stared at tactical displays in confusion. How is their ship still intact? Unknown, sir, his weapons officer replied. Energy signature shows direct hit, but no visible damage. Fire again, all forward batteries. Multiple energy beams struck the human fleet. Same results. Their ships shrugged off weapons that could destroy cities. Sir, the sensor officer called urgently. The human ships are accelerating. They're moving into attack formation. Korax watched in disbelief as the small human fleet spread out and began approaching his massive armada. Their movement patterns were unlike anything he'd seen, seemingly random, yet somehow perfectly coordinated. All ships, open fire, destroy them. The Kravos fleet unleashed everything. Plasma cannons, energy torpedoes, particle beams filled space with deadly light. But the humans fired back. What came from their ships weren't energy weapons or advanced missiles. They were simple chunks of metal accelerated to incredible speeds. But when these primitive projectiles hit Kravos vessels, they punched through shields and armor like paper. Impossible! Korax shouted, as 3 battleships were torn apart by what appeared to be glorified bullets. How are they penetrating our shields? Sir, his science officer replied with terror, those projectiles are moving at significant fractions of light speed. At those velocities, mass becomes irrelevant. They're hitting us with the force of small stars. The battle turned into a nightmare. Kravos' superior numbers meant nothing when human ships moved like ghosts. Their advanced weapons were useless against enemies who seemed to predict every attack. Worse still, humans fought with coordination that defied explanation. When one ship was damaged, others immediately moved to protect it. When Kravos ships grouped for mutual defense, human vessels appeared from impossible angles to strike weak points. Admiral, his tactical officer screamed, the humans are using their own ships as weapons. Korax looked up to see one smaller human vessel accelerating directly towards his flagship, engines glowing white-hot. Evasive maneuvers. Too late. The human ship struck at tremendous velocity, but instead of simple collision, something far worse happened. The vessel exploded at impact, turning itself into a directed nuclear blast that tore through the flagship's hull like tissue. Emergency alarms blared. Atmosphere rushed out through massive breaches. Half of Korax's crew were dead or dying. His mighty flagship was crippled. Retreat! Korax gasped through his emergency breathing mask. All ships, retreat to hyperspace. As the Dominion fleet jumped to hyperspace, Captain Morrison's voice reached them on open channel. You had your chance to leave peacefully. Tell your Supreme Commander that if he wants Earth, he'll have to come take it himself. A pause. We'll be waiting. In the silence of space, the human fleet regrouped around damaged vessels, already beginning repairs. They had fought the most powerful military force in the galaxy, and won decisively. The war had begun, and the Kravos Dominion had just learned their first lesson about underestimating humans. Ambassador Theron, watching the battle data from his scout ship, whispered a single phrase that would echo through galactic history. I tried to warn them. The strongest civilizations are not those who can destroy their enemies. They are those who can choose not to. General Morrison, Earth Defense Force, after the Kravos surrender.